Welcome to Promo Insiders, an ASI media podcast that covers the topics that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm CJ Mitica, and today I'm joined by ASI Research Director and 2017 Counselor Best Boss, Nate Kuzma, to discuss our just-released ad impression study. We'll share our insights on a number of highlights from this year's version and discuss how you can use the study to improve your sales. So I guess I probably shouldn't have started off the podcast with an inside joke.
I think it's actually fabulous. So, inside joke, I typed in who is Nate Kuzma at Advertising Specialty Institute today into ChatGPT. And apparently I won the 2017 Best Bosses Award, which, woe is me. I didn't know that even existed, CJ, but thank you for this much often oft-delayed award, I guess.
Well, we know you're a great boss, Nate. There was never any official recognition until now. And for the record, ChatGPT also said that you've been in the industry for, I think, over 15 years, and you held a number of roles, starting out as a customer service representative, and I'm looking at it right now, the write-up, and most recently, vice president of sales, which, I mean, that's a lofty title. Research director is a serious demotion, unfortunately.
That may come as a surprise to a few people, CJ.
Well, we're not talking about AI. That's actually going to be next week's podcast. We're talking about the ad impression study, our 2023 version that just released. It's available to anybody who wants it. You don't have to be a member to access the study. You can find it at asicentral.com/study. It's also on our research page on the ASI Central website. If you're a member, make sure you're logged into the website and you'll get immediate access to the study. If you're not a member, you still have access to it. You just have to fill in a little bit of information, and you get nearly 200 slides worth of comprehensive data, which is a pretty good deal. I would say so, Nate.
Yeah, I would say.
And and it's our study. It is the definitive proof of the effectiveness of promotional products, and it's often cited, often looked at. Before we dive into some of the highlights from the study, Nate, for people who aren't familiar with the study, haven't heard your annual spiel about this, can you tell them what the ad impression study is, and more importantly, how it can help their business?
Yeah, for sure. So we've been doing this study's been around for, unlike me at ASI, about 15 years.
Yeah.
I joined ASI back in 14, and then when I joined, what we used to do is we used to do a survey where we would go out and we would talk to people about their usage of promotional products, their knowledge, how often they did it. And since I joined, we've really done a good. I felt like I'm very proud about the job we've done in ramping it up. We've talked to well north of 300,000 American consumers in the last 9 years about their experiences with promotional products. And this year alone, we were north of 30,000 people that answered our survey. And the purpose of the ad impression study is to provide a benchmark that our distributor members can use to really show their clients what they can expect to get from their usage of promotional products as an advertising medium and as a loyalty growing and just a consumer-friendly form of advertising. There's a lot of analysis that goes into this, but we have in this we're going to go over a few slides today, but understand that beneath those 6 or 7 slides we're going over, there's a deck that is put together by our incredible art director Hillary Glenn and CJ, by you and the editorial team, with all of the analysis about how this can be used, what are the most important attributes of promotional products to call out, and what is really the ROI. We're always looking for ROI. It's easy to determine the ROI online, right? If you're doing Google ads or Facebook ads, you kind of know what you're getting. Any types of offline advertising, and you're talking about television, radio, promotional products, out of home, it's a little bit harder to measure. And that's what, years ago, that's what the purpose of this survey was. And it really has grown into what I would consider to be the definitive means of showing how strong of an advertising medium promo products are. I know we're going to talk about some of those today. And it really is. It really helps to show the value to people who are going to be using these to grow their business.
And to that point, before we get into some of those highlights that we're going to talk about, The study is laid out into individual slides with singled out all these different data points, and again, nearly 200 slides in the total package, and it's very easy the way that Hillary designed it, the way we constructed it. For you, the promotional products distributor, I mean suppliers too, obviously can reference this,
Sure.
to take these graphics, take these data points, insert them in the presentations, send them to clients, put them into blog posts and content marketing.
Yep.
It's very user friendly in that way. Again, you can download the whole study and basically do what you want with it. So before we get started, remember asicentral.com/study. I'll reference it at the end as well. Okay, so we're going to go to our first data point, our first finding. Nate, so you already referenced this a little bit, and a very clear statement here: promo products are U.S. customers' favorite form of advertising. Now, if you don't work in the promotional products industry, if you're an outsider, I think it's very easy to be skeptical and say, "Oh, well, you work in the promotional products industry. You're just saying that. There's of course you're going to say that promotional products are everyone's favorite form of advertising. So unless you want to come clean, Nate, right now to say you just made it all up, what's the basis in this finding?
Sure. Well, first off, if that was true, and it's not, right? Because every other, you don't ever hear, people who do mobile advertising saying consumers love us, right? Do you know why? Well, hint, because they don't, right?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, people look at promotional products, I would say, a little bit differently than they look at other forms of advertising. Many times people don't even realize that it actually is a form of advertising, which is good, right? Because that means they're going to use it, they're going to be exposed to it, they're going to share it with others, but not actually realize that what they're doing is actually promoting the brand that supplied that item to them. And even, promotional products is really, it's also kind of the only form of advertising that people actually, often pay for. People want to be associated with brands.
Right.
They want to be associated with the image of the companies that they want to support. What we do is we ask customers basically just say, on a scale of 1 to 5, what is your overall view, best to worst, of different forms of advertising? Promotional products, television, radio advertising, newspaper ads, mobile ads, magazine ads, internet ads. And we do all of these. And when you look at it across the board, promotional products tends to be, with almost no exceptions, the #1 form of advertising. A few years ago, we did it, right? I don't have to come clean. I can tell you, there was one age group where it was not #1, it was #2, and it was behind newspaper advertising, and that was in the oldest demographic. I believe it was 65 plus, who still preferred newspaper advertising. However, when we ran the most recent study for this year, it actually was #1 for all of the age groups. So it is interesting the way it shifts around. Some groups have different forms of perceptions over mobile advertising. Younger people are less adverse to it. They still don't like it, right? Promotional products is still #1, and we have all of that in the deck. But no, it's one of the great things about being involved in research is I have a genuine curiosity to find out these things. I'm not out there trying to prove a point and saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. I really want to know. And when the data comes out like this, I'm always interested, surprised, and it always is sort of exciting to see how yes, and data can be exciting, CJ, to see how it comes out, because you don't always know when you ask the question. But when it does actually work out, and especially for something like this, where promo products really are, I feel, so different than other forms of advertising, I think it's just great to put that in people's hands and say, use this how you want, because it's powerful.
I think you make a great point. It's the only type of advertising people genuinely like and welcome. Unless you ask my kids, who love TV commercials because they think the Geico lizard is cute and funny. But beyond that, like every other form of advertising referenced here, like people either skip over it, ignore it, or change the channel. And
Yep.
that's not the case for promotional products. And that's why I always liked having this study, because it quantifies that sort of intuitive idea.
Yeah, and what we really tried to do this year was we put out, it's exhaustive. This is an exhaustive study this year. We have it for all different types of products. We have it for every state in America. And teaser note, we're also working on a Canadian version of the study right now too, which will be
Yes.
coming out later this year.
So before we get to our next point, I do want to reference this. I probably should have referenced earlier. So we break this down across a number of fronts. There's age demographics, as you'll see. There's gender. There's geographic. So you'll a number of these findings you'll find it for either for region or for different age groups, and so that'll help you narrow out your target audience and give you some specific actionable insights.
Yep.
And I also want to add that the data we're showing here, the highlights are kind of a sampling of all the different things you're going to see in this year's study.
Yep.
So to the next thing I want to show, environmentally friendly products. We actually do this for both Made in USA and environmentally friendly. We asked different age demographics and again, different genders, like, do you feel more favorable about the advertiser if the promo product was environmentally friendly? We also do this for Made in USA. Very interesting. I want to pull out these two particular percentages because it runs counter to what the common sort of wisdom is. And again, we asked different age groups, how do you feel about the advertiser if the promo product was environmentally friendly? Consumers aged 25 to 34, 39% felt more favorable. Consumers 65 and older, 49%, nearly half. And the general idea is that younger buyers really care about the environment, really care about sustainable products. Older buyers, not so much. This is completely flipped. Nate, like, why do you think this is the case?
Yeah, there's a couple of things here, right? And it's just to put it out for, like, let's look at the 25 to 34. 39% feel more favorable. That doesn't mean the 61% will hate the company, right?
Sure.
What it means is that they're more ambivalent to it. So a couple of things that I could possibly think of, because it's always a challenge and kind of, again, enjoyable to try to figure out why. One, people who are the younger consumers, the Gen Zs of the world, the late, I guess you could say the younger millennials of the world, they're peppered with everything environmentally friendly. It's sort of become part of their lexicon, but can you also become a little bit desensitized to it? Possibly, right? I don't know how much of this actually is targeted towards people who are the baby boomer generation and such, because all of a sudden now they have, I have my son has, all of his grandparents are still alive. They care about his future, right? They care about their granddaughter's future. That's what they're focused on. So I think that it's maybe been a little bit of a false narrative out here to say that older generations don't care about the environment. It's easy to believe it, right? If you watch the news or if you watch, public opinion polls or what have you. But, just this is actually, to me, sort of goes beyond just promotional products into just an overall interesting news tidbit, because it is fascinating that older consumers are actually going to look at an advertiser that gives them a green product and saying, "Wow, I'm going to support you a little bit more." And fun fact about older consumers is they tend to have money, right? It's a byproduct of being a little bit older. The older you get, you do tend to have a little bit more disposable income. So I do find that to be very, very interesting. I'm with you. I was surprised by this finding. That's not actually, when you think about the narrative of environmentally friendly products, this is not where your mind immediately goes. But the data shows pretty unequivocally that older consumers are very concerned about green products.
Yeah, and I think that's a great reading of the data that you brought into it. It's not that younger buyers don't care as much. They intensely care about it. In fact, it's pretty much a non-negotiable for them.
Yeah, sure.
It's just the fact that older consumers, it matters to them a lot, and a lot more than people might think. And so that's a fresh way to attack that demographic. And look, sustainability has been, I would argue, the defining trend in our industry for the past 3 to 5 years. And it's almost inescapable at this point with companies and how and the products they're bringing and how they're approaching that topic. So it really, I think this data shows that any consumer you're thinking of or any target vertical, sustainability has to be sort of at the forefront of that conversation.
I agree. And like let's say you're talking to a company and they say, yeah, you know what? We don't really want to spend the extra money because it can cost more money to go for a true environmentally friendly option because our consumers are older. If you want to know how to use it, show them this statistic. That's how you use it. You say, yeah, I understand your concern. I think you should look at this though, because it's going to be eye-opening for them.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's go on to our next set of data, and this is about longevity of products. And it's important because the perception of promotional products is that they're just cheap and disposable, that people receive them and they throw them away because they don't care. And that's not the case. And we have the data that shows that perception is wrong. And I just pulled out two here from about I forget how many product categories we did, like a dozen or 15 somewhere
About that. Yeah.
in there. But I just want to pull out two different ones just to demonstrate that. So for drinkware, 63% of consumers would keep and use promo drinkware for 1 year or longer. And then with power banks, 51% of consumers would keep and use a promo power bank for 2 years or longer. So you'll see in the study, we did some for 1 year and we did some for 2 years. For the 2 years, look, the percentage is going to be a little less, right? Because not as many are going to keep it for as long. But still, if you think about it, half of the consumers are going to keep a product they received, in this case, a power bank, for 2 years or more. Like that's really impressive. And again, it undercuts that perception of how disposable these products are.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, truth be told here, that's is it okay to say it's a bit of an antiquated perception? I think it is, right?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
Go back 15 years ago when I started in the industry, CJ. But no, go back 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, I'll buy it. There was probably a greater percentage of the industry that was disposables, right? And listen, there are still some disposables in this industry, and that's okay because some of the products we're using are some that we're giving away are single-use products, right? That's
Sure.
fine. But quality begets people keeping an item a lot longer and actually valuing it and having a stronger influence on the consumer and those that are around them that are getting it. And I think that's kind of key here. Nobody's going to keep, let's be clear, a stadium cup that they get that's 50 cents for a year or longer. Probably not, even though I have a couple from like things behind me on my desk, but they're not, I don't use them. I just stare. I just have them up there. But overall, though, I think that higher quality products will be kept longer, right? Pens that have a nice logo on that are metal pens are going to be kept longer. Power banks that have a higher MAH, or as long as they continue to work, are going to be kept longer. We actually ask people, and we didn't do it this year because we don't repeat questions year after year after year. It just gets tedious. But what we've asked, when we used to ask people, how long would you keep an item for? If they couldn't give us a year, they would say, listen, I'm just going to keep it until it stops working. Right. And that's kind of an important thing that with a lot of these items, we're saying 2 years or longer, right? For this, or drinkware 1 year or longer. That longer period is sort of indefinite, right? It's basically until it breaks, they lose it, or they don't have room in their cabinets for it anymore because they got replaced by newer products. It's a long time. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, it's only kept for 12 months or 24 months. Most people have promo products that they've had for 5 or 10 years. A couple of years ago, we did a quick study that said the average person in America has, I think, 30 promo products. That's a lot of promo products that are in their, sort of headspace, so to speak, in their household too. So they're keeping them. It's not that they're just getting them, and even if they don't want them, they often give them away. Most people don't throw away promo products. If it's a good quality item, they're going to give it to another member of their household, to a friend, to a colleague at the office. I mean, there's times when we get them out of office and we walk out in editorial and they're on a desk in front of my office, as it turns out, and people just go by and they grab them. So it's not that they're kept, and they're often not disposed upon, especially if they're still in good working order.
And I was going to bring that up, the fact that promo products are passed along to somebody else or not just thrown away. Do the statistics here reference that, or is that something separate?
That's something separate. It's something that we have in previous versions of the studies that we could definitely include in like an appendix version of this. But I think we probably should, now that I'm thinking about it out loud. I think when we start rolling out, and we can add on to this, because we want to try to expand the scope of the study a little bit more in future years. And I think putting out there everything that we do have from the last year or two would be valuable. And I think that that's just another point, that they are passed along. They're not thrown out.
Yep. Yep. So just overriding point, promo products, they're kept, they're used, they're passed to someone else. They have a long shelf life no matter whose hands they're into. And so that leads into our next data, which is number of impressions. This is key data that people look for. And again, this is the impressions that products generate over the span of their lifetime. So again, if you're keeping a product for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, the number of impressions is definitely going to rack up. I pulled out these two in particular, outerwear and fleece, which generates 7,856 impressions, and t-shirts which generate 5,053 impressions. That's, by the way, 5,000 impressions per t-shirt, 7,856 impressions per jacket or fleece. So that's per individual piece. These are the highest two among all the products, the items that generate the most number of impressions. They're both apparel based. Maybe it's common sense, but Nate, why is that the case?
Oh, because they're most often to be seen by people, right? Other than the user, right? Like if you have a pen, right? Let's use a pen as an example, or a power bank like we talked about.
Yep.
Most often those are just going to be used by the person who's actually using them, right? So you're reinforcing the brand repeatedly, and often hundreds and hundreds of times, but you're reinforcing the brand with them or with people directly around them. With apparel, you wear apparel out. Like this hoodie that I have on from we got from Vantage for the 2020 Power Summit. That was I've worn
mine.
this. Yeah, Power Summit Live. I have worn this for the last going on now 2.5 years regularly, because it's a great piece. I wear it out. I wear it in public. This piece has well exceeded that 7,800 overall impressions. And I think that that's kind of the fact. Like this is like sort of like what we going to be the average. Somebody, if you just wear it around the house, might get a couple hundred. If you wear it out in public, it might get 30,000. Right? There's a lot of impressions, and you try to come up with the average. But what it does go to show is that there's an incredible reach of these products, whether it's just with the person who's using it or the people that they're around.
Yeah, and when you're talking with your clients, talk about the potential uses of it. Find out how they're going to use these products, and because then you can offer the best suggestions, the best solutions, and know that the products that do get out in public, do get the most use, are going to have the most visibility.
Yep.
So the impressions leads into our next statistic, which is cost per impression. And so we've calculated this for a number of different products. I have two here, and there's a juxtaposition that I want to talk about. So take the metal pen, for example. A metal pen that costs $1 will have a cost per impression of less than 1/10 of a cent. So that's very, very low, tremendous value. Now look at the half zip fleece. So that fleece costs $30, but it has a cost per impression of less than 1/2 of a cent.
Yep.
So I think often buyers just get hung up on price, right?
Yeah.
In distributors obviously, do their best to work with that. There's budget concerns. They'll present good, better, best options. But really, I think this underscores it's not necessarily the price of the item, it's the value it's delivering.
Sure.
Because that half zip fleece that costs $30, that might be considered an expensive piece to many buyers. But when you think about it in terms of the value, it's driving, again, 1/2 of a cent per impression, less than 1/2 a cent per impression.
Yeah.
That's tremendous value, and that's something that like customers will really appreciate.
It is, and it's sort of like the reason we put prices with this is because there's a wide range of pricing that people are often pitching to their clients. You have pens out there that you can probably still get for 15 cents, I would imagine, right? Like are those going to have the same number of impressions as a pen that's $1 or $2 or $5? No, they're just not, right? They're not going to be kept as long. They're probably going to break, if we're being honest. much quicker than the more expensive pens. Like there's a different quality there.
Yeah.
But what you find out is that overall, when you start looking at these, the way you figure this out, if everybody ever wants to, look at the average number of impressions, divide the cost by it. That's how you get your number, right? So 50 cents divided by 500 would be, you know, a penny per. So that's kind of how you figure this out. But, you know, when you start looking at this and you start realizing that what does your brand really want to, how does your brand want to stand for? How does it want to be represented? Don't be scared off by the higher priced items, because those higher priced items are going to return to you the repeated number of impressions to these people that are wearing them and to the people around them that other products may not. Right. So don't say, well, this one's $30, but this product over here is $2 and I'm going to use that one because it's much cheaper. It's cheaper. That's undeniable. But is the value the same? Not necessarily. It really depends on what your purposes are and who your clients are.
Yeah, look, if you give away a substandard product that breaks immediately or after just a few uses, that's going to do damage, right? The client, the end user is not going to view that favorably. And on the same token, you know, there are retail brands that cost a lot of money in this industry, and like they're in apparel, like $100, $200 pieces. That's not cheap. But you know, it delivers value depending on how it's going to be used. Also think about like the end user. If that end user represents a significant amount of potential business for the advertiser, like that's a huge source of value. You gave away $100 jacket and you got, you know, $10,000 worth of business. So that's tremendous value as well. And so when we talk about this, and when we talk about our next, and I think our last slide, yes, price is important, but it's the value that really underscores everything here.
Sure, absolutely.
So, okay, our last slide here talks about influencing behavior, and this is something that I just referenced. So Nate, I'll have you explain this, because this is something we've referenced in a number of different ways in the ad impression study. When we talk about promotional products and influencing behavior, how are we defining that, and what are we talking about in terms of what promotional products are looking to accomplish?
Sure. We just basically, I mean, overall, I mean, what are promotional? Overall, the idea of promotional products is eventually to play into the consumer decision-making process, to want to do business with a specific company or brand, right? And to feel good about doing business with that company or brand. That's, I think, very, you know, often as important as actually doing it. How do you feel about it once you've done it? So what we do is we ask people, if you receive the promotional product, and we go into specific promo products, all of the ones that are listed here. From a brand, how likely would you be to do business with the advertiser that gave you that promo product? And you can see that across the board. You know, you have a 40% increase for a couple of apparel brands. And even on the lower end, when you get to the 20, 25%, that's still 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 people that you're giving this to that are now more likely to do business with your brand. There is no other form of advertising out there where people are going to say, yeah, I mean, this is like a single interaction too, right when they get the product with the company, right? If you think about, very few people are going to see a mobile ad and be like, ha, I'm going to do that app right now. Or they see hear a radio ad, I'm going to give them a call right now. And if they do, it sure as hell ain't 1 in 5, or at the upper end, 1 in every 2.5 people, right? So really, really big, strong influencing number for people when they receive a promo product that they want to do business with that brand later on.
Yeah, and so for our audio listeners, I'm showing this information-filled graphic that shows the percentages for all promotional products, at least in the categories that we pulled out, of how much it makes it that a consumer is more likely to do business with that advertiser. So outerwear and fleece and performance wear, they're at the high end with 41%. Desk accessories are at 24%. Headwear is at 20%. That's the lower end. This chart is in the full study, and you can definitely access it there. And one more key point that I want to make, and again, you referenced this, is that there's the longevity of these products. They have a lasting effect on the buyer. So if they keep an item, right? So they see it the first time, it's not going to necessarily be oh, I got this cool stuff, I'm immediately going to decide to do business with this company because they just gave me something. It's sort of that repeated exposure, that long-lasting effect. It's a product you keep around for a while. You keep seeing the logo, you keep seeing the name, and then when it comes time to make a decision as a consumer, then it's like, oh yeah, I recognize that company, that they gave me that product. I'm very familiar with them. I'm going to do business with them. So it's not sort of an instantaneous reaction. There's sort of a longer exposure time with these products.
Agreed. Completely agree.
So to wrap up, Nate, what do you want to leave with our listeners and our viewers? What do you want them to take away from this study?
Yeah. So one, realize that promo products are a incredibly valuable part of your client's advertising mix, right? They shouldn't be the only part, but they should be a significant part of it. Use the data to reinforce the message that you're trying to communicate to your clients, that they need to consider these, and here's why they need to consider these: because people value them, they hold on to them, they influence not only them but people around them, and they will make them more likely to do business with their company. Use the graphics in your social media, use them in your presentations, feel free to put them in your emails, and if you have any questions about any of them, reach out to us at ASI. I'm always willing and always available to talk to people about how to use them or to answer any questions they have. We do this study not to make, this does not make ASI any money. It costs ASI money. This does not do anything other than try to allow us to help our members grow their business. And whatever we can do, any questions I can answer that you may want to ask me, please feel free to always reach out and use them liberally, because they do provide a very, very strong message about the power of promo.
So once again, you can find the study at asicentral.com/study. You can also go to the market research page on asicentral.com, and you can find it right there and download the study. Nate, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks again for showing that you're the best boss in the industry.
Back at you, Siege.
All right, thanks everybody for listening and watching, and have a great rest of your week.